I finally was able to turn on the camera and get it going. And the saga continues on getting our computer equipment ready for going live. And I may know how to sew, but still learning how to be a director. So I'm going to give you guys a little time to find the second feed or third feed. Hi Karen, thanks for joining me, and I hope that you had a wonderful Saturday. Have you ever tried embellishing with different types of trims before? And if you have, you're not alone. Most people have collected different trims over the years and don't know really how to sew them on. And some people don't even know there are trims in the fabric store, because if you can't sew a trim on with your sewing machine, then why would you ever see them in the store? So you kind of walk through the fabric store with blinders on, not realizing that there's a wide variety of different trims available in your sewing stores. Now, some of you live in the outskirts of town and you don't have access to trims, so we are at Creative Feet compiling a trim selection for you, and it's part of our giveaway today. So hi everybody. Hi Cynthia. Thanks for joining us. Hi Lorraine. So let's see here. If you have ever tried to sew sequins on and broke a needle, you're going to love seeing how we can do that with our Sequins and Ribbon foot. If you've ever struggled with elastic before, you're going to love seeing how that is no longer a problem. And that means all sizes of elastic, all styles of elastic. And we're getting more people on here now. It's Saturday night. It'll be interesting to see how many of you are joining me. Let's see here. Today's giveaway is the Sequins and Ribbon foot with the Accessory Guide Set and a bunch of 10-yard put-ups or baggies full of trims for you to play with. For those of you who have ever bought a foot before, if you've ever bought a regular foot, like say when you wanted to do sew ribbon on and you were sold a foot to sew ribbon on, it likely sews one size of ribbon and that's it. With each of the Creative Feet, they do over 20 different things, and because of that, we have a book and a video. It's very important to be able to learn all of the different things that you can do with the Creative Feet, and I don't talk about it enough, I think, because some of you are thinking that watching a video like this, you'll be able to just magically remember everything that I say, and when we go live, sometimes the videos run long, so you might have to wait, 15, 20 minutes to get to the actual thing that you want to see me do. If you go on YouTube, you can be on there for days and never find the video that you were looking for, because it gets so overstimulating that you sit there and go, oh, look at that video, and you may never find your way to the actual technique that you want to do. And although all of us with vision or eyesight feel that we are visual learners, we all need a very important component in order to complete any task. Those of you who like to cook and aren't always cooking your own recipes, because I always get that, well, I cook, but I can cook my own recipes. I don't use a recipe book. So for instance, those of you who are in the United States, every year we have Thanksgiving. If you have to make a pumpkin pie, when you go to make a pumpkin pie, do you just go, I remember all of the steps and just do it? Or do you rely on a little recipe maybe handed down from people in your past, your mama, and or ancestors going way back, some family recipe? You always need that recipe to give you the ingredients that you need and so that you'll know that you, for instance, sometimes they say baking soda versus baking powder. And I was playing around with that recently, and if you use baking soda and put too much in your cookies, they turn into crumbs. Like, it won't hold together. So if you use the wrong needle and you sew through a sequin, you could break your needle. If you don't use the right width or the right stitch, you may not be able to successfully sew down a trim. And so we have a book that's 208 pages, and it's full of recipes, and they're my recipes. In other words, I invented the techniques. They never existed before. I invented the creative feet, which made them possible. I'm going to kind of show it to you. I know that this is one I take to show, so it's really beaten up. Let me grab it. If you have trouble remembering something after you learn it, for instance, if you take a class and you do all your little projects and then you go home and you can't remember what you did, you are not alone. And hi, I'm going to say hi to a few people: Teresa, Beverly, Karen, Diane. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday evening. So this is the workbook, and I call it the Creative Feet Technical Guide and Workbook Volume Number 1, because believe it or not, I have at least double the techniques that are in here in my head, and I will be writing the second volume. So inside of this book is table of contents that is broken down by each of my 3 creative feet. I have the satin edge, pearls and piping, and sequins and ribbon foot. And in each of these recipes, it's broken down by straight stitch or zigzag or decorative stitch. Then you're supposed to go to the actual chapter and follow the steps. I'll kind of give you a page here to look at. They're all falling out. Thousands of people have touched these. We'll go to a sequins and ribbon section here. And sequins and ribbon is the 3rd section of this workbook. So here we have how to sew on ribbon, and I give you a description of it, of the actual technique, and then we give you the machine settings. And each of the Creative Feet Technical Guide and Workbook pages are broken down so that you don't have to learn this. It's kind of hard to see with the white paper and the light reflecting off of it. But I have machine settings. I have pressure, foot pressure, thread tension, stitch pattern, needle to use, bobbin thread, needle style as well, not just the size of the needle. Then I tell you about bobbin thread and help you to choose which one to use versus stretch fabric or regular woven materials. Then I tell you to attach the foot. And every single body movement that you will make is in a step. I say raise the foot, that's a step. Then you slide down and go. Next technique or step is slide the fabric over, and then next step is lower the foot. Next step is turn the hand wheel to lower the needle. Next step is start sewing. You know, that's a very short version of a chapter. So basically what I'm telling you is that you really do not have to concentrate or remember what you just read. Every step is a sentence. You read it, you do it, you move down. You read it, you do it, you move down, which really makes it hard to remember what you just did. And that's great, because what you want is to not have to remember what you're doing when you sew. You just want to sew. And when you think of the fact that the sequins and ribbon foot with the accessory guides is capable of well over 26 different things, it can feel overwhelming, but remember, you can use it for just one thing and still be really excited that you have it. So you don't have to do all of the techniques that are in this book, but if you do, you might be able to create an entire wedding dress like one of my customers did after just completing the book and taking a class at a adult education center on garment construction. She made her daughter's wedding dress, bridesmaids dresses, wedding veils, and all kinds of different things for the wedding. And so that's the book. Now, when you go to the book, you'll get set up, and some of these things I'm going to tell you to do will maybe intimidate you. You might be afraid to stitch through a sequin with a needle, and I don't always have you do that, but sometimes we do. So for instance, if you want to sew a complete body of sequins, you don't want to use a zigzag stitch because you'd be swinging into the row you previously stitched through. So sometimes we're going to sew right through the sequins. Sometimes we're going to zigzag across them. And all of that would take, this section of the book on just sequins and ribbon would take me probably 10 hours of live video to teach you, which is why it's such an important tool to have in your sewing room. And for those of you who are chicken to just read, the Creative Feet Techniques DVD, which is also available on a flash drive or a USB stick, and also the book is also available. This big binder is available on our USB in a PDF file. You can also purchase the video and book together on the USB and save a lot of money, and it's also lightweight, so it's not going to cost a lot to ship. And one of the really neat things about buying books and videos this way now is that you can put them in your cloud. If you're not familiar with what a cloud is, I know some people are like, what is that cloud they talk about? So when you have a computer and you have a drive inside of it, and when you hit save, it saves files into your drive. When you have a cloud, there's somebody else with a hard drive in a very secure hard drive, a very secure place, and they frequently have multiple hard drives in different places around the country and around the world to protect your data. So if one goes down, another one turns on. So you don't have to worry about your computer getting a virus and then now you lost all your files. So the cloud server is a really, really cool thing to start using. If you are intimidated by your computer, have one of the little techies in your world help you to set it up and understand better. And hi, Barbie. And hi, John. So I'm going to stop talking about this now. This is to help you understand, because when I go on, I show you one foot one day and I show you the next day it's the same foot, but that same foot is doing something completely different, and that can be confusing. So, the satin edge foot does 27 things, pearls and piping well over 22, and sequin and ribbon, as I mentioned, over 26 different things. This is one of the projects I will be filming, the complete tutorial, the difference between live video for me and YouTube, which I will also be filming and adding to Facebook. So if you don't want to venture over to YouTube, you'll be able to find this tutorial coming up soon on my YouTube channel. And as I mentioned here, sorry, I'm a little tired. This is crazy quilting with a twist. This is done without any muslin backing, no fusible webbing. So it's very soft. It's also the strongest method of adding trims and piecing there is. And you can use this for pillows as well as for quilts. It's very soft. So very exciting lesson that will be coming up soon. Make sure that you hit the follow button while the live video is going on, and then you'll be notified whenever I go on. I will probably announce right before I do this that this video is going live or going to be uploaded soon. And hopefully my video experience will be improved by then. Know that we're working behind the scenes to develop a way of filming with 3 cameras so that you're not bored just staring at one particular camera angle for a long period of time. Have any of you ever tried to sew rickrack before? This is a very challenging trim, as it has like a swing to it. And some people stitch it on using a straight stitch and sew down the middle, and then once the garment is washed, it curls up on the side. So you can use a double needle and stitch this down using our sequins ribbon foot, and it will hold it down for you and it will never lift up. You can also combine 2 rickracks together to create what I call twisted rickrack, and that is also in the book and video, should you want to pick that up. So, elastic. Do any of you find elastic challenging? How many of you just avoid all patterns with elastic? If you do, hit the wow face so that you guys all know that you're equally intimidated by sewing elastic. This foot sews any size. If they make it really big, if they make elastic this big, it's still going to be able to sew it, despite the fact that the foot has a particular shape. This is how it comes packaged, and in a reclosable container, so you don't have to cut it open, with a little instruction book. So if you're not ready to get the book and video, you do learn how to use the foot for sewing sequins, sewing ribbons, rickrack, braid, and elastic. And we don't talk price on videos because they're forever and prices change over time. This is the Sequins and Ribbon foot, and you can see how it has a tube in the white guide. And that tube, when you purchase the foot, comes with a 1/4 inch opening. So I think you can see that. We have a delay on the camera, so. All right, well, you're gonna see it because I'm gonna do some close-up as well. Now, say you buy a yarn and it's really small. It would just swim around inside of that guide and make you have to hold on to the ribbon or the trim. Have any of you ever sewn ribbon and tried to hold on to your ribbon while stitching over it and had your fabric gather? That is one of my techniques. I call it gathering with yarn. So it's a good thing when you want it to happen, but not a good thing when you don't want it to happen. And if you're wondering how this foot could fit on your machine, because our feet do fit every sewing machine, no matter how new or old your machine, even industrial sewing machines. If any of you have an industrial machine and you have a double needle machine, you can send us one of your feet and we adapt your shank to our foot, and these are running on high-speed industrial double needle machines. But if you have a regular Zig-Zag Stitch machine and it's industrial, you'll just use one of our adapters. The adapters snap right on to the presser foot, and these are warranted for life. Even if your dog chews it up, as long as he spits it out, we give you a new foot. These adapters are engineered to be snapped on and off thousands of times. You're not going to have to worry about it breaking. So it's some of you are nervous about pushing down hard on something. Know that you can't break it. If you want, you can even use like a hammer to push it on if you're not strong enough with your fingers. Yeah, I get a lot of comments, Diane, about the color of my machine, and I did in the Drunkard's Path video inside of the Creative Feet list of videos. You'll see at about 1:49, you'll be able to see a complete viewing of all sides of the machine, since we can't do that every time we go live. And I do have a How to Paint Your Sewing Machine DVD available at creativefeet.com. We will be getting it on PDF soon. I mean USB soon. All right. We also offer complete sets of the Creative Feet. We got a lot of questions after the last airing, and one of them was, or more than one was that, about the feet. So the feet come individually packaged, but we also sell them in sets. And in this set, this is our educational special that the USB stick goes inside of here, and all 3 of the feet are here, and the adapters. If you have a Bernina sewing machine, you're going to need to buy an additional adapter and use it with our shortest shank. This is the Bernina low shank adapter. We have these on creativefeet.com, real nice images of them so you can blow it up really big and have a full understanding of how it works. But it's very simple. It turns your Bernina into a low shank sewing machine. Our little snap-on adapter then turns your Bernina sewing machine into a universal snap-on sewing machine, which means you can share feet with Brother Baby Lock, Necky Nelko, Bigger Rowley, Singer, Elna, Kenmore, Rickard, Westinghouse, Montgomery Ward, JCPenney, and New Home. Yeah, all of those. And those of you who have a FOF and you have the IDT, you'll disengage it, remove your snap-on adapter, put ours on in its place, and you also can share feet with all of those sewing machines. All right, enough talk about the feet. Now, oh, and this is the printed binder version of our book, and then your choice of DVD and USB as well. We reduce the amount of packaging and pass the savings on to you instead of pocketing it for ourselves. Do any of you have a basket full of yarn? And yarn used to be for knitting, but there was a term that came out called couching. And it has been used and misused quite a bit ever since it came out. So if you've ever heard of the word couching, the definition, excuse me, I have something going in my eyelash. Probably a little fuzz from yarn. Couching is the act of sewing something down onto fabric. So that means anything that you want to stitch down is couching. My Sequins and Ribbon foot with additional guides, the accessory guides, is capable of sewing all of these different sizes and styles of trims. We use Zig-Zag Stitch sometimes on this, and sometimes a double needle, and all of it was done without holding on to the trim at all, because the way I designed the guide was so that you could let go so that you didn't pucker your material. Yarns come in different thicknesses, so you may think that you can only sew the size yarn that fits the opening, but yarn is how I feel standing in front of the mirror. It may look that size, but if you squish and roll the yarn in between your fingers, you feel its true size. And yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like that girl, not this girl. All right. A long time ago, feels like another lifetime ago, my friend Roberta from Meadowbrook Inventions, and that is her website as well, we invented or developed the stretchable sequin. If you know anyone who does costume design and you need to make a leotard for someone when they go to wear an outfit and there's sequins on it, sequins generally do not stretch. So if the person tried to put it on, they would not be able to put it on because the sequins stop the fabric from stretching, and then the person can't fit inside or the fabric tears. That's not good. So the stretchable sequin is a wonderful product which we will be adding in the goodie bag, and it stretches out and comes back to its original shape, just as your fabric does. So if you make money from your sewing and you want to make some costumes and you want to add some sequins, but you've been nervous about normally you would have to stretch the fabric while sewing the sequin on, and it is a miserable experience. But the worst part of that is the sequin ends up looking all messy on the garment, and it doesn't look good until the garment is on the body and then the sequins are able to stretch back out again. So that caused a lot of people to not make good sales of their costumes back in the day before the stretchable sequin. So thank you for all the love, you guys. I see all those hearts going by. I'm getting misty. This is a scarf, and this was done, and I'll put her name in the video after I can find it, because I struggle with remembering names. I meet so many of you every year. But this was done by one of the winners of a sewing contest put on by Janet Prey. She did the Sewing Expo in Novi, Michigan. Unfortunately, that show's not going on anymore, but she's involved with Margaret Islander Sewing, so if you want to look her up. She's also been on the It's So Easy show like I have, and a fabulous educator. So this, Cheryl Linsky, I think is her name, made this for me after she won the Creative Feet prize at that show for winning the sewing contest, and it is an amazing dress that she did. So let's see. Sometimes you want to dress in jeans, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got somewhere schwanky to go. This is something that I designed when I was going to go to a show in New Orleans, which didn't pan out, but the people in Vegas love it. And you can see the sequins, and this was worn by our mannequin. Her name's Zelda. Sometimes we bring her to shows. So you can see the fancy work on the top. The set that's applique incorporated into a garment along with beads stitched on around it. So this is the combination of the 3 Creative Feet together, and I also incorporated the applique onto the sleeves. Isn't that pretty? Now the story behind this one, and this is a skirt that they call these broomstick skirts, and you put vinegar and water in them, and you stuff them in a pair of pantyhose and put them in the dryer, and they come out and they stay like that. So those of you who are interested in square dancing know that our foot works fabulous for square dance skirts like that. And I got a mess of stuff here. This is the item I was showing on the last video. Kind of showed you how we used all 3 of the Creative Feet and the octi hoops. For the actual stitching that you see, the little hearts and flowers and stuff that I stitched on there. But there's a variety of different yarns on here, and the flexibility of the guides, which I'm now going to show you. Didn't put them away. Let's see. they didn't go far. I'll be showing you on the machine here. The accessory guides let you go from really, really small, and it's almost the only way that you can sew both sides of an 1/8 inch ribbon at the same time and soutache braid, and you can fly on your sewing machine. You can go really fast on that, and your stitch stays right in the middle, and it zooms. You can just spin around and go in different directions, and it won't go out from underneath the needle. And you can go all the way up to these real heavy upholstery trims that you find in the upholstery department. This is about, I think it's about 22 years old, and someone took it at a show, so I stitched that on there, and it's fallen apart because thousands of sewers have picked at it, because you know how sewers are, we like to touch. This is the eyelash yarn, and there is a short quick clip inside of our list of videos showing you how to sew the eyelash yarn. I think I also did something else recently. This is a video where I went on Cheryl Borden's Creative Living and showed you how you can finish the edge of baby blankets using our stick and rinse tape. It locks the bias or the stretch in the polar fleece. See that little shiny bit there? And then you can stitch yarn right on the edge, and then you wash that, and the yarn is all that's left. And it's really nice finish on it, soft and cuddly along for your, in the same cuddly feeling as your blanket. It's a really fast way to make a baby blanket. We also have a video on how to make a sarong out of this acid wash silk that I bought. This fabric was $75 a yard, and I just had to have it because it's see-through. They acid wash it, so they burn away some of the fabric, and it's just fabulous. A really nice, classy thing to wear at the pool. You can see that what I see when I'm filming. This is another fabulous use for the sequins and ribbon foot. Scarves need to be soft and fluffy, and yarn is a very light and soft and fluffy thing, so it doesn't add weight to the edge of your materials. And this is a knit that I did with the Octi hoops, which I'll be showing as I am going to release a pattern on how to make this scarf. It is a really fun, fast project, and you can go out without your purse. Let's see, and at last Christmas, I did film this during the time when my shoulder was at its worst, so feel free to go and watch that. And this is a really fun scarf to make using a jelly roll. How many of you got jelly rolls laying around, you don't know what to do with them? Now you got something to do with it. Okay, we're gonna sew. There we go. All right, I'm gonna look and see if any of you have any questions. Do I have a video on the baby blanket? Yes, it is under the television shows playlist. So on my actual YouTube channel, I have playlists. I have, oops, there's the hippo saying hi. And the toucans, for those of you who wanted to see a little bit of the machine. But we're gonna try to keep it on the sewing part so no one gets bored. And there's part of the giveaway. Make sure you make sure you're active on the, oh, here we go. This is the basic special. If you can't afford the book and video right now, you can get the feet. The lowest price to get all of our feet is this, and you don't pay for extra packaging. All right, here we go. Get this tripod set up. I can't wait until I have my cameras organized. Going live is a completely different experience than filming with 3 cameras and not being live. So be sure to go and look at my Clare Rowley's Creative Notions videos, because those were done with multiple cameras, and you don't have to watch me readjust cameras like I'm doing now. Try to get so you can really see what we do with this foot. Another thing on our pre-recorded videos is you don't realize that half the time I'm really not holding on to the materials on the satin edge foot and the trims on the pearls and piping and sequin ribbon. All right, here we go. I was going to show you a Halloween costume, but my dog is asleep on it. Afterward, if you guys aren't bored, I'll probably pick it up so you can see it. Thank you, Karen. Thank you for saying I'm doing a good job. Once I get the camera going, I feel okay. All right, here we go. So, to use our foot, you're going to remove your machine's presser foot. And if you have a snap-on adapter on your machine, some of you don't use your machines very often or you're brand new to sewing, there is a little release button on the back side of the actual presser foot. On my machine it's black, on the Genomi's it's red, and there's sometimes it's just silver, and you just kind of push on it and it releases this little spring and drops the foot off. So what makes a foot universal is the size of, or the width of the snap-on adapter that you see there. And that is the Baby Lock snap-on adapter that you're seeing. I think I'm going to have to move my machine further back in order to film this today. Let's see here. Don't get dizzy. Hope you guys aren't full and you're getting nauseous from my spinning around. Okay. Hope that's not too loud. So Sequins and Ribbon up close. You can see that that is a 1/4 inch opening. The Husqvarna, Karen, you will just take our foot and you'll just go like this and just push it right onto your machine, just as you normally would. In fact, before they started copying Creative Feet, all of the Viking dealers used to send you our foot when you ordered a foot for sequins and also for beading. There we go. This is good because now I can see through the cell phone, so go ahead and chat, ask questions, because I can read while I'm actually sewing now. The Accessory Guide Set are a set of 2 guides that have different size openings, and we're the only ones with this. So they've all kind of copied the basic concept of my sequins and ribbon foot, but the magic of this foot is the bottom. It is the only foot that locks into your feed dogs. My machine goes, no, don't do that. So what happens when you take, whoops, oh my goodness, why can't I get this right? When you take and put a piece of elastic underneath, normally you would have to do what? Grab hold from behind the foot, and then you'd stretch in front. And then what happens is when you stretch towards you, is that this machine drops the feed dogs in between. Let me put them back up. There we go. See how it locks? Oh man, let me get that higher. Come on, brain. There we go. So instead of having to pull from behind and pull towards you, now you just pull towards you. And that's going to make a huge difference when you go to sew. I'm going to show you fold over elastic since we're talking about elastic right now. I think I had a piece of fabric ready. Unless my dog took it. Chaos on the table. I found it. There we go. Any of you do any baby diaper covers? Is it Sina Dow? That's a pretty name. It's unusual. It is going to gather because I'm going to combine it with material. So you would take make sure your elastic is measured to fit your fabric. And this isn't about teaching you all the different ways of sewing elastic, because as I said, it would take about 10 hours really to show you all that this foot does. But what you do with fold over elastic, you can make a skirt for yourself out of it, because it actually goes over the edge of your material. and becomes a finish to a raw edge of fabric. There's a bunch of different styles of these types of fold over elastics available in your fabric stores, and they just fold like that. Some are smaller than others, but for the baby, this is a Babyville elastic, and it's super soft. You just want to touch it, unlike some others. You can make a slip, if any of you still wear slips. You can make a slip in like 15 minutes using this foot. You can also use this to make Barbie clothes. And I did show that, I believe, on my New Year's Eve special 2017. Okay, bear with me here. For those of you who would like to sew elastic without a zigzag stitch, you have found your solution. You can actually sew with a straight stitch. I had a lady call me up and she goes, I'm 96 years old. I have a featherweight. Can I or can I not sew elastic with just a straight stitch? And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to find out. So I went and I got my stretchiest fabric. And what I'm doing now is I'm selecting a straight stitch on the machine. And I'm lengthening my stitch length to the longest stitch length. That's the key to this pulling well for you. So it's just a straight stitch. Now, if you're going to sew elastic in like little girls' sleeves or lingerie, you would use a 3-step zigzag. In other words, a stitch that goes zig, 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 zag, zag, zag. And also increase your stitch length always to the longest stitch length on the machine. And if you have foot pressure adjustment on your machine, you want it to be normal. All right, so the magic of this, can I zoom in? Nope, can't zoom in. Can't wait till I get my cameras. We already have the cameras. Now it's just getting it set up and me learning how to go live without having delays. So you would just wrap your elastic over, and I'm sewing while looking through the camera. I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm using this neon orange thread for you so you can really see. So you just stretch the elastic. It's going blurry. Let's see if I can. Maybe I'm going to change the angle for you. Okay. The magic is I'm not pulling from behind, so I can steer my fabric with only 2 hands instead of going, honey, can you please come in here and pull the fabric from behind the foot? Because I can't do it. If you've ever felt like you're having a tug of war with your machine, it's over now. Now it's easy. If you have issues with your hands and you can't, pull like that, this is a solution for you. If I can just get myself comfortable. You do need to have it under the foot. There we go. And now I'm not able to see the cameras, just so you know, or your writings. So what's happening now, as you see in here, is the fabric's being taken and I'm holding back on the elastic, looking not here, but right here to make sure that my fabric doesn't start to slip like that. And you can go ahead and make baby diaper covers so fast with this. So you see the fabric starting to gather behind the presser foot. The harder I pull, the more it gathers, but there's obviously more science to getting your elastic to fit your garment than just stretching as hard as you can. But you can stretch to its full stretch, which means if you're stretching your elastic to its full stretch with a straight stitch, you can't break the thread later because you've already stretched the fabric all the way out while stitching it. Isn't this amazing? And it does this with all kinds of elastics. I started looking at the needle. Never look at the needle. But there you go. See how beautiful that looks? A straight stitch instead of a messy looking stitch. I know I moved things too fast last time, so I'll let it sit here a little bit. Now, I used a 5mm long stitch length, but it looks like a 2mm long stitch length there because it's not stretched right now. So when you stretch it out, it stretches back to its 5mm long stitch length. This is how the magic happens. This is the sneaky tricks that you learn when you're a manufacturer. And since I had to teach manufacturers, that is what I came up with for them for sewing elastic. Okay, now we're gonna play a little bit. Well, let's do a little rickrack here, and I'm gonna look for questions. Who's ha ha ha? What was funny? I said something funny apparently. I don't know what I said. You have 2 new great nephews. How fun. There we go. I'm going to look and see if I can find this lady's outfit that she shared with me that she made with that. And it was the most incredible, beautiful outfit. Here we go. So you may think that you can't put that into this guide because it's got that, it's wider than the opening overall. This is actually 1/4 inch rickrack, because you measure your your width of your rickrack not by the overall width, but how wide the individual piece is. Think of it as a snake laying on the ground. How wide is its body if you were to stretch its body out? And that's how you determine which guide opening to choose for the size of rickrack that you are going to sew. And there's a lot of really fun different rickracks out there. You can use a double needle sew over them, and also use invisible thread and not see any stitching at all. I'm going to use neon thread so you can see everything I do today. So how do you get that into the guide? That would be very, very challenging to get that in there. So what I do is I cut off the outer edges on both sides for about 1 inch, a little more. And then you insert this. I'm going to try to do this so you can see how fun it is. For those of you who remember Clotilda, she's the lady that interviewed me on our YouTube channel when my very first time ever being on camera. And she renamed this foot the Sequin Ribbon Rickrack Elastic Foot on her catalog. And this is, I said, no, it's not going to sew rickrack. She goes, just try it. And so the only way I could get it to do it was to do that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, look, it zigzags through the opening. It is so cool. So not only can you sew this, but when you use our foot, because you're not stretching, you're not holding on to that, it won't stretch your fabric. And let's see here. I'm so grateful that the thunderstorm is not tonight. We had one last night and it lasted all night long. Any of you local in the Prescott area, did you get any sleep last night? Because my dogs were so afraid all night, I could not get any sleep. I'm going to show you a really fun way to hem. This is a good way to hem a tutu or little Barbie skirts. It's also a really neat way of putting rickrack into a seam on a quilt. And you can use this for all sizes of rickrack, by the way, even the jumbo rickrack. Sorry, I'm making it go out of focus. So in this case, we're using just a straight stitch, and I gotta make sure that it's set right. So if the needle is not landing on the rickrack where you want it, then you turn this little nut on the foot, and it moves the trim over to the needle. So if I were using a double needle, you couldn't move a double needle over because you'll hit your metal plate on your machine. So this allows you to change the position of the ribbon, the rickrack, the sequins, so that you don't have to worry about breaking your needles. Diane, a lot of people said words they didn't want to ever tell anyone when they sewed elastic. There are several things that you guys avoid. I can tell you them all. Zippers, elastic, gathering, and there's one more, piping. And I'm going to be showing you all of them. Not today, but so that you guys can realize that you're not the only ones feeling that way, and there is a solution. We've already taken care of it. It's all easy now. Notice that this is the rickrack just sitting there. My right hand, I'm gonna put it back here so you can see I'm not touching it. And Oops, I have it set for elastic. So we'll go a little shorter. And I forgot to center my needle. There we go. So what we're trying to do is trying to sew, and I may be doing this wrong. I am doing it wrong. We want to be on this side of it. So we use a right needle position. This is why there's a book and video. It's hard for me even to remember everything I came up with. Watch this. Once you know that you have the needle in the proper position, you watch the front of the foot. Try not to let yourself get caught up in what's going on back here. And I was looking through the camera again. So we're trying to sew on the right side. Remember, my right hand here is not guiding that rickrack. It's just feeding it right through. Ignore everything else. Just keep your focus on your material so that you sew straight, because the foot has the rickrack covered. Zoom, zoom. Oh, I did it wrong. Oh well. The joys of live and a tired brain. Let's see. So I'll just won't let you know that this is the wrong side of the fabric there. Only you guys will know. Then you would take your rickrack and you flip it like this. And all you have is this cute little scalloped hem. And you can use our satin edge foot to do a perfectly placed straight stitch right along the edge of that. And our presser to press that. But I have sold out my pressers. That doesn't mean you can't get them. I'm making more tomorrow. So just because I know some of you want to see it. Amazing. All right, so here's where I sewed it wrong. I didn't have it peekabooing out enough. And then you just sew a straight stitch right over the top. Easier with my satin edge foot, but today's all on the Sequins and Ribbon foot. So if any of you sew American, is it the American Girl dolls? This is the foot that will change your experience. And up next, how to crazy quilt without muslin and in a way that your quilt will not fall apart after people sit on it. So there you have a cute little American Girl skirt. And all you have to do is sew up the side seam. You teach a child how to do that, because even kids as young as 4 can sew the elastic now. And then after they sew those two things on, then you have them sew up the side seam, and their eyes get so big because they realize they just made a skirt. Okay, here we go. Pam, it's time to start using them more. Life gets in the way, I understand. Whoops, sorry you guys. You get all caught up in your life and then you forget what you bought. How many of you have a pile of things you have no idea what they are? Especially those of you who go to the shows. How many of you have patterns? Say wow. Show me your wow faces. How many of you have patterns that you never opened that are older than your kids? Any of you got those? I do. So how do we do crazy quilting without using any fusible webbing? Diane, I guess the only reason you don't have our feet is because you don't have our feet. It's time to get our feet. So I have a piece of fabric and I'm going to sew it to another piece of fabric. A lot of you are just learning about us because the last video I did on my octi hoops kind of went crazy, and it's still being shared as if it's live, and I can't thank you all enough for sharing these videos. It really helps somebody else that doesn't know about our feet, that's struggling with sewing, and really the only reason you guys struggle is because you don't have the right foot. It's like I say, like trying to saw wood with a butter knife. If you don't have the right foot, it's really not your fault that you're not having success. This is our liquid-based basting glue. And it really isn't a basting glue because it's really just water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle. If you have our water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle and love it, go ahead and hit the heart. so other people can know how wonderful it is. It's not an adhesive product. If it does get the lid left open and you lay it down, it will kind of seal itself, and you can just peel off the little bit that comes out there, and then you just put a little drop on your finger. See that? And you can just rub it and it falls right off. It's water soluble stabilizer in a bottle. Your godsend. You don't have to pin anything anymore, and this makes it so that you can overlap. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line all the way along the outside edge of the fabric that I'm going to have below. And I'm about to show you a way of constructing garments that you may not know about. And it's called flat construction. So you overlap a 1/4 inch, and that's it. Now these two materials are not just pinned every so often, which causes puckers as you come. If you had a straight pin and a straight pin and a straight pin, it causes a little pinching of your fabric. So this eliminates any of that from happening. And now we're going to go ahead and see. I have to choose what color ribbon to use. If you try to put the ribbon into the foot right now, it's not easy. So it's easier to put it in your hand, pick it up, and insert that ribbon right into the tube. This is a tough ribbon to sew if you've ever tried it before, because it's not straight edge. Those little loops cause it to not function in all the other copies of my foot. So go ahead and put this down. And I'm going to switch now to a lighter foot pressure. And I'm going to show you because I know some of you have the same machine as I have. So I go into this screen here, and my foot pressure is normal at 4. I'm taking it down to 1. And what that does, it's the same thing as if you have a sewing machine and you have a little metal thing that you push on the top of your machine. Sometimes it pops all the way up. Sometimes you have it pushed all the way down, and some of you have no idea what to do. It kind of looks like that, but it's got like threads, and it has a metal bar that pops up. If you push it and release it, it's no pressure. If you push down all the way, it increases the pressure. And what pressure is how hard the foot is pushing down on your material. And if you have a fabric that's slinky or slippery or lightweight, you want to use a lighter pressure so that it doesn't distort the fabric. All right, that's as close as I can get with this camera. I can't wait till we're using our other ones. Now I'm going to position my trim over the edge of the fabric that's on top, and they're overlapping 1/4 inch or thereabouts, because it doesn't really matter how accurate you are with this. And I'm switching to a decorative stitch because I don't want you to have to wait for me to thread a double needle. But you could use a double needle and sew both sides down at the same time. One of the features or one of the techniques shown in the book and video. And also in the little booklet that you get when you buy the foot by itself. So Karen, you saw the octa hoops. That is one of my favorite things to do. I know I love all my products, but when I want to goof around, that's what I do. I use that. So I'm moving the ribbon because I could tell that my needle was not close enough to it. Before I get really sewing, I always sew a little bit just to see if it's right. And this is a stitch that is really wide, and my fabric bowl was against the spool. So I'm going to take, excuse me, I hit something. I have to turn the machine off and on again. Have you guys ever done that? You never knew about pressure, Bonnie? Oh man, it's life-changing. Yeah, understanding your foot pressure it's every single chapter in my book. I tell you what to set it at, and then you can write a note in the book so you never have to remember what to do the next time you want to do that technique. So I'm using a stitch called the shell tuck stitch. I'll just show you. It's right here. For years I would say that stitch right there, and I didn't know what it was called, and I would even say, I don't know what it's called, but that's what it looks like, and it's a backwards blanket stitch. And then a baby lock educator took my finger and goes, there's the name. Oh, that was a humbling moment. So what I'm doing is increasing the width so that it's wider than the ribbon. If you don't have a width that wide, then you'll use a decorative stitch and stitch through it like a feather stitch. All right. And the stitch length is really up to you, whatever preference, whatever you like. Sorry about the camera bouncing around. It's time for a new tabletop tripod, I think. I'll just hold it. I don't have to hold the ribbon anyway. In fact, once you know that you have it set, you take the ribbon and get it out of your way so you can guide the material straight. And the foot takes control of the ribbon and keeps you right, it keeps it right underneath the needle. You're steering the fabric to keep it straight, and then the foot guides the ribbon for you. No other foot behaves like this. This is why you always want to buy from the inventor of a product. I can't really see what I'm doing though, so hopefully I'm doing a good job. All right, and put you down. Show you what we got. If you don't want to waste trim, this is when you would cut it. And then just pull it out, and this machine needs to see the doctor. It needs a new threader and a replacement on the cutter. See how there's no puckers on that at all? And this is what's really important about why it's better to use this method than any other for crazy quilting. The next piece of material, you glue down, and you just draw a line of glue. For those of you who don't know, I always do this. I put glue down, then I slide my finger over it. So put the glue down and then slide your finger across it. Don't be nervous. It's just water-soluble stabilizer. And then you lay your next piece of material down over that. You can also shift it and put it in any position that you want. And then you lay it down, and now you're ready to stitch your next type of trim. And I think you might be interested in seeing how we sew yarn. Well, Karen, you know, when you get a new sewing machine, it is daunting to try to learn it all. Our book is written so that no matter what machine you have, you'll end up learning a lot about your sewing machine. And the video also is all 4 inches away from the actual foot. So when you get my video that we dedicated to the techniques, the camera is so close that you can see the invisible thread, like it's the size of a needle. Okay. This is a fun yarn, and it varies in size. So let me see if I can give you a close look at it. It's a blast to texturize material with, because it looks like you've taken the time to change to different types of yarns or different skeins of yarn. And I got this from Joann's Fabrics, I think. I don't know if you can get it anymore from them, but know that I'm going to source it. And that's why I haven't taught the scarf yet, because I used this on my scarf technique with the octi hoops combined and the sequin and ribbon foot. So what you do when you look at yarn and it has like big thicknesses like this is, how big of a guide do you need in order for the thickest area to be guided through so that it doesn't get stuck? And I think that the 1/4 inch guide is best for that. But I want to show you also the 1/8 inch accessory guide so you can see this magic that happens. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to sew sequins. I got to show you something. See how much fun this is? I can't wait to show you everything, but I can't show you everything. Is that mate or mate? The attachments, they can be used on a straight stitch machine. However, you're limited on what you can do, because without a zigzag stitch or multiple needle positions, you are limited on what you can get the needle to, or how you can get the stitching down on the fabric. Some of you may be wanting to do sequins and know that this is what I originally invented this foot for. These came out on a string. Do any of you remember when pre-strung sequins came out? Prior to this trim, if you were around when these first came out and you glued them on or painted them on, go ahead and hit the wow face so everybody can know how many of you had to suffer with that. A lot of people glued them on with a hot glue gun and burnt your fingers, and then you couldn't wash the garment. So I had to come up with a solution, and the person I designed this for was a fashion designer. So this is the only product I didn't design for someone with a handicap. But keeping my customers in mind, everyone, and the limitations, you know, it drove me to make it so you didn't have to hold on. And at the time, the only way you could sew sequins on was with a machine called a Cornelli machine. And it sewed one sequin down at a time. They still use that machine. And this is back in 1985 when I invented this. And that machine sold for $60,000 to $90,000 depending on the model. Way back when. So when I invented this sewing machine, our fashion designers went crazy because they could finally compete with the designers making garments with those sequins. And I am running at the mouth because it's nighttime. So I'm using a zigzag stitch, selecting, oh sorry, I should show you. A regular zigzag stitch that just moves left and right. If you only have a straight stitch machine, though, yes, you can sew these sequins on with a straight stitch. You just need to use a leather 80-12 needle. And then this is the width of a 7, and we increase the stitch length. Now, we are not going to be hitting holes here. We're going to be avoiding the sequin altogether. 4 millimeters is a good stitch length for this. And it's written down for you, so you don't have to remember anything that I say. Isn't that nice? This should be properly positioned based on the fact I just sewed ribbon and already positioned it. Once again, also lightest pressure. Ooh, it's getting a little close on the right, so I'm just going to move the sequin over by turning the nut. And now, as before, you can get the sequins out of your way so that you can see where you're actually stitching. And you can see that my hands are barely holding on. So those of you who hold down and grab and pull on your fabrics know that's why you get puckers. Want to lighten up, loosen up, have some fun. Look there. If it's guiding where it needs to, you don't need to touch it. Only touching when needed and let go. This is why people say I make it look easy, but no, the feet make me look really good. These are the creative feet, so they don't behave like all the feet that you get with your machine because these were designed by me for specific reasons. So now you probably, some of you are probably going, I don't really like that thread. She should use invisible thread. And know that you're getting the clear and the smoke invisible thread in the giveaway today. Whoever comments or reacts the most gets the prize. Let's see here. And we can really only base that in comments. So see the stitching? Watch the magic. Take your thumbs on either side and kind of push down and wiggle. When I do this at shows, everyone goes, oh my goodness. So I'm sure you're probably doing that. The stitches will disappear beneath the sequins. So I always say put your fingers on the sides and do a little wiggle. And you can see how the stitch drops beneath the sequin and nobody can tell how you sewed it on. However, you still want to use invisible thread because it's stronger than any other thread. And if you do, a faster way of getting those stitches to go underneath is to stretch across the bias. And it kind of pulls those stitches down. So if you have arthritis and grabbing like that is not an option anymore, you can put your hands down or even go like that and just kind of move it like that to get those stitches to drop underneath. All right, so showed that. I had a list of things I wanted you to see. That was one of them. Was that fun? Did you guys like that? Isn't that cool? All right, what's next? Does anyone remember what I was going to do? I was going to do yarn. And then we'll finish after that. For those of you who need to go to sleep or cuddle on the couch with your honey, we're going to go ahead now and take the yarn and feed it through the opening on the foot. And I unfortunately pulled the thread out of the needle without my needle threader working. It is so fun to learn new things, isn't it, Sina? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you for the love, you guys. All right, here we go. So this is a foot that sells for a very affordable price. I don't say prices during videos because we change prices as years go by. This is what day is this? Is this August 11th, 2018, in case you're watching this in 2020. So we take a piece of thread and we cut and lay it down on the machine, and then you take your yarn and you lay it across. Now I get a lot of people going, you could probably use dental floss for this as well. Yes, but it is short and slippery. So thread grabs the yarn better, and also you can hold it easier. Once you have the thread being cradled, or the yarn being cradled by the thread, then you take the thread through the guide, whichever guide you've chosen to use. If this yarn were all this thickness, this would go through the small hole on the 1/8 inch accessory guide. You can see how it just goes through there. And then it's just, what stitch are you going to do? Definitely invisible thread would be better for this. But I know you guys want to see the stitching, so. If any of you are interested in sewing trims like this, that is done with our pearls and piping foot. And there are videos on inside of the Creative Feet fan page and also on our YouTube channel, and you can see it rolls right over it. This is also couching. It is also embellishment. So couching is not just soft, flexible trims, it's also hard trims. And this foot would not ride over those trims. If I could have made one foot do everything, I would have. Because I also like saving money. Now on this machine, they have this really cool stitch. It's called the couching stitch. I hope I can find it easily for you. Let's see here. And using invisible thread would be ideal, but okay, here it is. So for those of you who didn't see how I did it again. Turn on, here we go. And while we're waiting, a little sneak peek on the side where you'll see, hopefully, an elephant running through the jungle. This is my thread dispenser. We're currently sold out of these. We sold out of a lot of stuff this week. However, we are always making things. So this thread is being fed up there, right up there, and then to the sewing machine. And I never put my thread on my machine because it doesn't, your thread spools don't like to be fed that way. You'll get a better result when you use a thread stand, and I consider that a gift from God because I dreamt that design in a dream that I had one night. So now I'm using the couching stitch. I forgot it blacked out on me. So one touch down, one touch down, another touch down, 2 touches down, and there, that's the stitch. So what it does is it kind of looks like a messy, I don't know, it's cool. Now I'm going to center the yarn under the stitch because you can't move that stitch over. You can move a zigzag stitch over on some machines, just a smidge, but you can't take a whole stitch and pick it up and move it over. So having the guide be able to adjust to that stitch is crucial. And why? We can sew all sizes of yarns and trims with this foot. Okay, so it's going way far out there. We'll move it over a little. You can also put a whole bunch of yarns in there. So what I want you to see here is that I am not touching anything. This is live. I can't be tricking you. This is the Sequins and Ribbon foot at full speed. And now to steer, you just move the fabric with one finger at a time. This is how you don't get puckers on the material. We'll go the other way. Then you just move your hand, put your finger on the other side. This is how I teach kids how to sew. I tell them to close their hands and put out one finger on both hands. Touch, let go, touch, let go. If you do this more and put your elbows down, you will feel better at the end of a sewing session. So, and you can also cradle your fabric from below. But none of this. No more hands down. It's bad for you. Bad for the fabric, bad for your shoulders, your hands. See how it just guides it even though I'm spinning the material around? And now we're coming up to the bulky area, and it will completely change its appearance and take it right through. So see how I'm lifting the fabric up? And we're almost done. This will be the last thing that I stitch, and I will take a few minutes of questions, and then later on we will announce the winner of the giveaway. So this is practically hands-free sewing, and you can see how neat that stitches now. And you can use metallic thread with that, and as I mentioned before, you can use just a 3-step zigzag, also known as a tricot stitch, also known as a multiple zigzag stitch, any stitch that doesn't just do a wide zigzag. You want to have a stitch that does zig, 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 zag, 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 or some type of small stitch to progress forward while also moving side to side. That's the ideal form of stitch to use for couching with yarn, which is what most people know couching to be. So I hope that you guys have been having a good time on this Saturday night. I hope it doesn't take me too much to adjust to this camera angle. That was pretty good. We'll see how it looks. Is my head cut off? Oh, yes, and I'm sure I said it before, but all sizes of elastic, all kinds of elastic, any kind of garment. You can even do it in a waistline on a dress where you sew the bodice to the skirt, and you can use an overlock stitch to sew the bodice to the skirt and stitch your elastic right on the skirt side, and it will flip down and not touch your body, and so you don't have to do an encasement. Encasing your elastic should be done after sewing it on. Let me get my head back in here. Okay, I promise we are going to get better at this live video. I'm so glad that you feel that you benefited from this video viewing, Diane. You learn something new every day. I love learning. That's what keeps us young. Learning something every day. And also being creative and not giving in to self-doubt. So for those of you who feel like, oh, I don't think I'll ever be that good. She makes it look so easy. It can't really be that easy. It is. You need to just do it. And I'm here for you. I am the one that calls if you need a call back. I actually do talk to people on the phone and enjoy it very much. I'm also the one that answers your emails when you email, for the most part, if it's not just order related. Know that for any of you that ordered or have ordered this week, if any of you are waiting on your orders, because we did have such a tremendous response to our last live episode, that we are working as fast as we can to get orders out, and I'm about to depart for 2 weeks. I am going to New Hampshire. If you live anywhere near the Manchester, New Hampshire area, I'm going to Quilt Fest, and to find out information on that show, it's www.quiltfest.com, where you'll also find other shows that I'll also be attending. And the week following, I'll be at the AQS Quilt Week in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I will have a corner booth at both of these shows so that you can all fit in the booth. And I demonstrate all day long like this and take your questions. Feel free to bring me any fabrics that you might be challenged with or having difficulty with. I love being pushed. I have somebody bring Minky and Minky binding and say, sew that. And I did. Using the binding technique that you'll find on my inside of the Creative Feet site. We have a USB, a flash drive of it. And also it is on our YouTube channel and also in Creative Feet, how to bind your quilt without having to hand sew it at all. And you can use that same technique no matter what material it is. Minky, polar fleece, denim, leather. So I think I'm done. Any in South Florida, I am coming to Florida, and I hate saying that far out, but I am scheduled to be at the Broward County Quilt Guild show in March, I believe, and it will be added to our shows and events page at creativefeet.com. If you follow us here and or like Creative Feet's fan page and ask to get notifications. Then you'll be notified whenever we add a new show. And the other show following that, the week after, I'll be in Lakeland, Florida. I haven't been there in like 6 years, which is going to disappoint some people in Puyallup, Washington, because I won't be at 2019 Sewing and Stitchery Expo. However, I am going to be in Puyallup this November, and hopefully you'll all come out and see me there. Okay, you're all starting to check out. It is late. It's 7 here, so 10 o'clock some places and really early in other places, as you're all not on one place in the planet. And I thank you so much for watching this live episode. Once again, this is August 11th, 2018, and all of the products you saw me use are available at creativefeet.com. And every day we're adding more products, so get ready. There are going to be a lot more videos. And feel free to leave comments, say, what would you like me to do next? And I plan on trying to squeeze in a live video during at least one, maybe both of the shows, kind of take you for a little tour of the show. For those of you who can't come out and attend these, so you can see the beautiful fiber arts that people just like you are actually doing and accomplishing with our products and other wonderful products. So with that, I have to end this, and it has never been a graceful way of doing this. So I'm going to grab the camera, and I will try. And I say try because there were too many comments for me to respond to on our last live episode. I got through about 600 of the 1,600, and every few minutes there's hundreds more. So thank you for participating in our live videos, and blessings to all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and happy sewing.